Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This time I'm going to take a look at an Atari Lynx. I've got a couple here. One of them has got the connector missing from the board. The board was faulty. It's got some faulty chips. There's that faulty PSP actually as well in here. Now I think there's a few screens and things floating around in here, various bits and pieces. I think the faulty screen there from a Mark II. So the hope is that I can at least get one of these up and running. I'm going to be missing a few bits, I think. Oh, I've got the rubber bits there. I was going to say I thought I was missing the rubber grips, but we might be missing a flap. Oh no, I've got a flap on that one. So yeah, we might have just enough bits here to make one out of these. So actually I'm going to use this. Now I use this for my Game Gear and the Lynx. You can see I added an extra connector here, an extra cable. So I've got two. Now the polarities are reversed on these, so you've got to make sure they don't touch, otherwise you're short. But you can switch this off and on here. The ironic thing with this is you can see it's in the on position. It's actually, when it's in on, that's when it charges. When it's in off, actually that's when it's powered on. It makes no sense at all. But as you can see, yeah, so I've got a Lynx connector there as well as the Game Gear one. Now these things you can still buy on eBay. It's a bit dusty this actually. This was something I did about 6 or 7 years ago actually. I bought this faulty and they contain NiCad 7.2 volt radio control pack, you know, the ones like you get in radio control cars. It's got like two quite thick wires with a white plastic connector. But you can just use, well I went with a nickel metal hydride rechargeable one. So whilst the charge circuit is designed for a NiCad, it does work pretty well actually. You have to charge it for slightly longer because it's a higher capacity, it's much higher capacity than the original one would have been in here. But yeah, anyway, that's just a by the by that you can actually salvage these if you see one faulty on eBay. So we'll plug the power in. So these do nothing when you've got no carts in, just to show you. Now I forget which pin it is, it's something like 32 and 33 or 33 and 34, I forget. I'll perhaps stick it up there. But there's two pins that are shorted together. Sorry, that's the one that's... yeah, I'll also forget the one with the actual innards in it. Yeah, that's awful. I think that needs a new socket actually. I don't know if you can see that, it's just like flaky as anything. But in any case, we need a cart in there, as I mentioned, to short out the on. Did you see that then? Oh, we had a flicker. Let's just see if we get any sound. Oh, I can see the screen, can you see that? Oh, it went off. Let's just try that again. Try and hold it in place, try and turn it up. Yeah, I can see the title there, can you see that? Xenophobe. Yeah, so that's working. The screen is just knackered. So I think we'll tear this one down. I might just try the other couple of screens I've got, because I've got the one in here, and if memory serves, this one wasn't so clever. There were some pixels and odd positions and stuff, you know, lighting up and stuff on there, which is a common thing with this. You either get the lines that way, or as you'll see, pixels all over the place. So to get inside these, you need to pull off the back of these here. You can see they're just stuck on. Yeah, we can just peel those back like that. And then you've got 4 screws here to remove, and inside the cartridge bay there's one there. Whatever you do, don't lose and mix up that screw with any other screws you've got, because if you put too long a screw in there, you'll see there's a flex ribbon underneath for the controls, and it just happens to run underneath the screw mount there. So if you use a screw that's just 1 millimetre too long, you'll screw straight through it. I did that many years ago actually. About 10 years ago on one of my Lynxes. But I ended up getting some replacement flex ribbons. You can still buy some spares for these from Best Electronics in the US. They've got a massive amount of stock. They bought all of the old Atari stock when Atari went into liquidation. So they've got tons of things, right down to individual chips and things for many Atari systems. Anyway, we'll get those 5 screws out. And when you're working with things with screens on the front here, you want to work from a soft surface. You know, you don't want it on a hard table or something, because you'll scratch the screen up. I mean, they tend to have a few scratches over the years, but these ones aren't bad actually. I can always juggle them around the lids and things, because, as I say, only one of these is going to be working. The other one, I'm going to use the hot air, and we'll remove the chips from it. I may even swap them over as part of the testing there to work out where the failures are on the other one, but I suspect the other one went over voltage. That was one reason why I just removed the cart slot. And you might wonder why I removed the cart slot. It's for a dumping rig. I've got a dumping rig set up so I can dump Lynx carts. But, I mean, if there's any chance, you can see this has had the mod done, I think. When you see that wire like that there, it's usually a MOSFET bypass, because the MOSFETs fail on these, and the MOSFET is kind of like, provides a soft power on. You know, there's no sort of physical on-off latchable power switch. It's all done sort of softly, if you like, with the MOSFET. Now, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've been inside one of these. Yeah, I forgot about that screw. Yeah, if I remember rightly, this then comes up, and you have to kind of juggle the thing here to get that out. Actually, there we go. And then you've got to be mindful of these two flex ribbons here. You've got the one for the screen, which is the wider one there, and one for the controls. And bear in mind, the more times you take these apart, the more chance there is of damaging something actually, because they wear, you know, they've got those little carbon surfaces on the end there. That one's not so bad because that one's metal, can you see? Got metal contacts. So what we need to do here is, on the one for the screen here, is just carefully, can you see that, prise it up on each side. It just overhangs a little bit, and you can just lift it like that. So that one will just literally pull out. It's not the easiest thing to do. We'll pull this off here as well. This is the speaker, if I can get it off. It's super tight in there. I never enjoyed taking these apart actually, for this very reason. There we go. So that's the speaker off. If we pull this out here, you just literally just pull it. There you go, in a straight line. And then this should pull out as well. There we go. So that's the main board almost separated. We've got the backlights connections here, you see, so we just need to just carefully pull that off as well. So there we go, motherboard free from the system. So you can see, I think I may have had a go at doing that. Mine might have stuck glue around there, I'm not sure. But in any case, that power jack needs swapping out because it just doesn't work. It's the pin in the centre is loose, I think. So it looks like someone's had a go at soldering that previously. I don't know whether they've swapped it or not. I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. It probably came to me in that state, to be fair. But that's the main MOSFET there. There's a Xenodiode as well. And the interesting thing with these is, just looking at that there, what the hell's out to that there? Can you see that? That's strange. Is it just a type of transistor I've never seen before? Or has it been wrenched off or something? I don't know. It's really weird because we've got an exposed bit there in the middle, like the back of it's come off. Maybe it's blasted off, but then there's a middle bit there. I don't know. We'll have a look at that in a minute. That doesn't look quite right to me. It looks like, oh yeah, someone's been tinkering with this. I suspect this should be flat on the board there between the three pins, but anyway, we'll have a look at that in a sec. It's a bit dirty with flux and stuff. I suspect that flux is from manufacture actually. So before I dive into explaining what the chips do on here, it's worth just covering a bit about the Lynx actually, because I guess the way we've opened this video here is I've just kind of jumped straight in with some close-ups of the case and stuff, and I haven't really even gone round it and shown you what everything is. So originally, the Lynx was developed by Epix, actually. You may remember them from developing some of the games and things for different systems, Commodore 64. They had a lot of affiliation with, there were loads of games like summer games and winter games, and those all came from Epix. So RJ Michael and David Needle, which you may be familiar with, ex-Commodore employees, worked on the Amiga. They both went to Epix and produced the Handy. That was the prototype name for the Atari Lynx. It was going to be called the Handy game, I think. And incidentally, that's what the emulator, the original emulator that came out for the Lynx, it was the first one on the net. Handy, I forget who wrote it, I'll perhaps stick his name up there. Yeah, Handy, I did an update to that emulator actually. It's Visual C++, I think, if memory serves. It's a number of years since I looked at it, but yeah, I'll post a link down to that down below as well if you want to. There are perhaps better Lynx emulators out there now, things like Mednafen, although one of the things I don't like about Mednafen is it's all command line driven, isn't it? You might be able to get a GUI or something for it, but nevertheless, Handy was its project name. So originally Epyx tried to sell it to, I think, Nintendo and Sega, so it was their loss really. Well, you could argue it was their gain. I mean, Nintendo came out with a Game Boy which was probably, well, definitely far more successful than the Lynx, which is a shame really, because I do think the Lynx is a wonderful machine, hence why it's one of my favourite systems. It's very capable. You can see, I'll show you some examples of some of the games and things I've got later on, but there's loads of arcade ports that are fantastic on this system. So looking at the main two chips here, you've got Mikey, which has a 65C02. It runs, if memory serves, around 4 MHz. I think actually in practice a bit less than that. On average it's somewhere like 3.4 or 3.6 MHz, I think. It presumably, you know, you've got some changes in speed depending on what it's trying to address and stuff, so yeah, an average is about 3.6, I think. You've also got the sound hardware built into Mikey as well, 4 8-bit channels, so you've got, you know, well, on the Mark II like this, you've got 2 channels on the left, 2 channels on the right, stereo. In the original Model 1s, and in fact some very early Model 2s, it was only mono. You still got 4 channels there, you know, 8 bits each, but it was mono. The interesting things there is that Atari's marketing team decided that because there were 4 channels, all 8-bit each, they were going to decide it was 32-bit. They did the same sort of thing with the Jaguar, didn't they? Claiming that various parts of the Jaguar were 64-bit when really technically it was 32-bit. You've also got 512 bytes of ROM built in here, and that was kind of still a bit of a mystery to a degree as of about 2009. I think it was Wookie and Carry over them on the Atari age. It was primarily Wookie actually, because he dove in and said, have we got the private key for this? Because the way it works, the little ROM that holds the 512 bytes, there's a bootloader on there that looks at the card to work out, to do the decryption of the header and stuff and the directory, I think, from the cards before you can actually run the game, and it perhaps does some decryption of the contents of the card. Now, in the very early days, back when Handy was around, and just prior to that, there was another guy, I forget his name, Bastian something, I'll put his name up here, was it Matthias? Yeah, I'll put his name up there. He worked out, I think it was from Gauntlet, that if you modified the second half of the ROM, you could get away with it. It's almost like there was a bug inside that 512-byte bootloader there, where it was not correctly checking, all of the ROM, and they somehow managed to wangle away around there to fudge some code in, their own bootloader or something to get Homebrew running, and that was the first aspect of that. But Atari had used a form of RSA encryption there, so it was quite sophisticated for the time. There was nothing else like that really. If you looked at competitive systems, no one was encrypting stuff really. You might have had like lockout chips and things like that, but they were actually encrypting the whole, trying to encrypt the whole ROM effectively. But Wookie managed to get the private key back in about 2009 with Carrie's help. So yeah, now you can actually, build a properly encrypted ROM. You don't need to go the Homebrew method that they worked out prior to 2009. And I only know that because I've done so much Homebrew messing around on these actually. I've got 1 or 2 games myself. I've got a few to release at some point. They're just not quite ready yet. And there's Alien that I produced previously that you'll have perhaps seen on my channel. Again, I'll post a link down below to that. But you've also got the interrupt controller, and you've also got the UARTs for the comlinks. You can see the comlinks port there. The comlinks was a way to link up links to each other, so the idea being, I think you could link up to about 15 of these, which is quite a number actually. And on games like Checkered Flag, that was like a racing game, it was absolutely fantastic fun, racing with several of your mates all linked together there, fantastic. But Epyx originally spec'd the comlinks port to be IRDA, infrared, well not IRDA, that was a type of an implementation of IR, wasn't it? But infrared, it was going to be an infrared port. But you can just imagine, had they gone down that road of not using a wire but having infrared, it would have been crazy. You'd have to be all lined up pointing your links in the right direction, and you know, ambient light and stuff, sunlight would interfere with it, and the distance would be a problem. Just wobbling the controller, you know, one way or the other, you might lose a packet or lose some data, or, you know, it would have been a nightmare. So for obvious reasons, yeah, for all those reasons I just mentioned, that's why they went with like a, you know, a fixed wired cable. And it's very similar to RS232. It's compatible, but there are a few, I think there's a bug, from what I understand. Carrie was saying there's a bug with the implementation of you know, the Comlink's connectivity. So yeah, you can get like a lost packet, like a lost bit or something. You know, every now and again you need to do like another handshake or something, because it's a bit flaky, as far as I understand. Alex Thiessen perhaps knows more about that, and Carrie. So if you wanted to know more about that, just head over onto the Atari Age forum, and I'm sure those guys could fill you in. So the sound hardware is kind of very similar in some ways to, in my mind, it sounds very similar to Pokey, actually, but it's capable of playing samples and things as well, and a lot of the arcade ports and things do make good use of the sound capabilities there. So SUSE is primarily the graphics chip slash coprocessor, and a lot of people overlook the coprocessor side. They think that it's just, you know, it's just graphics. It just does like sprite handling and stuff. Now, in the developer documents, it says that SUSE can handle an unlimited amount of sprites, which is a bit of a grandeur statement, isn't it? You know, unlimited number of sprites. Yeah, I could just imagine trying to get, you know, 65,000 sprites on there. Yeah, you're going to struggle, because I think it's unlimited, but it probably relates to the RAM. The RAM is your bottleneck there. You know, you're obviously going to have code in your RAM. You're going to have your graphics, your sprites in your RAM. So yeah, there will be a limit. Unlimited is a crazy statement to come up with. But yeah, SUSE handles your sprites. Now, the other misconception is people often think SUSE can do rotation. Well, you probably can if you use the math coprocessor side of her. You know, the maths. She can do floating point division and, you know, floating point math, multiplication stuff as well. So you could perhaps, yeah, with some clever routines, do rotation that way. But from a hardware perspective, SUSE could only do scaling and tilting. You know, tilting is something you'll see quite a lot in games. Games like Blue Lightning make use of the tilting and scaling feature, actually. And SUSE runs at 16 megahertz, the you know, the master clock speed here. 16 megahertz is primarily for SUSE. I'm just looking around here, I don't see it, but I'm guessing maybe the clock is perhaps divided down by SUSE. SUSE perhaps feeds the clock to Mikey. I've never actually looked in detail at the schematics there to see how that works. There is a buffer chip up here or something, so I think that's an 04 actually, so yeah, it's just a buffer. I don't see what else could do any division or anything. There are a couple of chips up there you can't quite see, but they relate to the cart actually. And the way the cart is, the way the carts work, it's not like other systems where, you know, your address and your data bus connect directly to the cart bus there, you know, so that your CPU has got a reset vector from the ROM that you boot in. It doesn't work that way. The CPU boots from that 512 byte ROM, and then the actual ROM itself is kind of like in chunks, you know, blocks of different sizes depending on the size of ROM you've got. So what I mean by that is you can get 64k ROMs, 128k ROMs, you might be able to go down to 32k ROMs, I don't know, I think 64k is the lowest, 256k ROMs, 512k ROMs, and then using some of the upper bits there that were probably intended for other things, because if you look at the specs, it was designed to be used like a tape interface. You'll see you've got like tape 0 and tape 1 inputs and AUD in or AUD out, I think. Those audio pin bits, I think, can be used to provide an additional address bit, if you like. So I think you can go up to 2 megabyte actually. The only game that's 1 megabyte, I'll show you later on actually, is Alpine Games. All the remainder of the Lynx library is typically less than or equal to 512k. And before I forget, SUSE also contains a blitzer, which if you think about it, it was bound to happen. If you've got RJ Michael and David Needle working on something like this, they're going to carry forward what they learned from the Amiga, and the blitzer was a really nice to have function, you know, hardware feature, if you like, to have within a system. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think you get some really nice graphical capability provided by the Lynx. So I didn't mention it, but the screen resolution is 160 pixels wide and 102 in height. It can cause you some interesting issues when you're developing, actually, especially if you're trying to do what I've been doing, which is remakes of games on, say, 664 or other systems where you may have like, you know, 320 by something or 240 by something, etc. Yeah, it can be an interesting challenge trying to squash the you know, the images down to that 160 by 102. 16 colours at any given point. You can use techniques and things like you do in other systems where you change the palette on a scan line, every scan line, etc., to get, you know, high res colour and stuff like that. There's a few examples in the homebrew side of things where that's been done, and I think they use that technique in Alpine games to get more colours. And actually, even some of the commercial games like Road Blasters, you'll see where if you count the colours on the screen that are unique, you'll see there's more than 16. I think the ones down the bottom on Road Blasters, the interface there, are different because they've changed the palette. I think it was Scott, I forget his name now, I'll stick his name up there. Yeah, it's changed the palette, I think, just before the interface is drawn at the bottom. And you've got a palette of 4,096 colours as well. So fantastic from a technical perspective, I guess. So the two chips up here are used in relation to addressing the ROM, actually. That's the only purpose they serve as far as I understand. And in fact, you can see the connections there on each of them. So on the edge here, you can see we've got the volume control here, stereo 3.5mm audio out, the comlinks jack there, the power jack, which we saw earlier, and then the brightness contrast wheel. And coming back to what I was talking about over here, and I cut myself off, there's two components. That might be the Xena there, I think. I don't see it just says D on the marking there. I'd expect a Z or a ZD. But yeah, there's a Xena diode and a MOSFET, and the Xena diode, in conjunction with one of these TTL chips here, generates like it's almost like a switch mode type power supply. You know, it's really efficient. But the Xena is used to regulate the voltage level there, and when that Xena breaks down or the MOSFET fails, your voltage can shoot right up. Instead of having 5 volts supplied to the board, you can have 6, 7, 8, 9. You know, almost the supply level, whatever power supply you've got connected, or your batteries in, you know, series there, can feed straight into the main chips here, and that's often why these die. And the telltale sign there is the screen's super bright. If you ever get one of these and you test it first time when you switch it on, in fact I recommend actually measuring the voltage before you switch it on, you know, before you leave it switched on. But if you ever get one and you power it on and the screen's like super bright, switch it straight off, unplug the batteries, disconnect the power, you need to inspect the power regulation section around here, in particular that Xena, wherever it is, and the MOSFET. So there's not much else on here really. You've got a couple of TTL chips. I think one of these is like a 4069. Yeah, there you go. That's the one I think that's used to provide the power. And then you've got like a 7474, is that down there? I don't know what those are. Another couple of TTL chips and a couple of DRAMs. As you can see, you've got 64k of RAM on the Lynx. So each one of those is going to be 32k each. Feels a bit wonky, that actually. It's not very good. That one's quite stiff and that one's quite loose. So inside the remains of the carcass here, you can see you've got a little speaker. You can swap those out. I've swapped those out in the past for a slightly better one. They are a bit, you know, they do give a bit of a tinny sound. Those can also pop. Yeah, what some people accidentally do is, you see the headphone socket here, they plug in a power jack into that. One of those ones, a little, you know, an adjustable end piece. You know, so they stick a 3.5mm mono or stereo, well, usually mono adapter on the end, thinking it's you know, it's like 2600 or something, and plug it in there, which puts power through your audio. And there's a couple of caps. I think there's a cap in between that at least, and that cap usually goes as a result of that. But more often than not, I've seen it take the speaker out at the same time. So yeah, it's not unusual to, you know, it's not that rare to find one that's got no sound, and you'll find the speaker's gone and the cap, wherever that is connected to this, has gone as well. So coming back to the shell here again, yeah, so you've seen the power connector, that's the one with the green thing there, and like I said, there's a flex ribbon. If you unscrew these 4 screws here, well 6 screws actually, and remove this plastic piece, underneath you've just got like a flexible membrane that leads to the underneath of all these buttons here. I can perhaps show you that later. And then the screen is held in with 4 screws there. You can see there's a fuse on each side here for the tube, you know, because they've got like they use like a high voltage fluorescent tube type thing there to light the screen up. So in fact, since the screen is we know has got major issues, let's remove it and let's just try the other couple of screens I have here to see if any of them are better. Now I'm pretty sure neither of them, the spares, have got a perfect, but they may well just you know, give us a better display in order that we can at least see what's going on. Ultimately I could swap out for a McWill screen there. That's something that I might do, I don't know, but yeah, you can see they're quite nice. So we'll try this screen next, I think. You know, if you're super lucky with one of these, the point where the ribbon joins, can you see down here? I'll show you. There's 3 grey things there. You might be able to, you know, heat with some hot air or something, or even the soldering iron, to join the thing back up again. Sometimes things like that can work. I've had a limited success like that with Game Gears, but yeah, it doesn't always work. Sometimes the failure is actually internal to the screen. This one might be a good example of that, I'm not sure. We'll try and get it back in there now, so it wants to go that way around, doesn't it? And just for the moment, I'm only going to put 2 of the screws in here diagonally opposite. There's no point in completely securing this until we work out what we're actually doing with it. So if we connect the controller up first, there we go, that's the control ribbons, and then we'll try, let me think about this. The easy way to do it is to do the screen last, actually. So if we tilt this over, yeah, these are so fiddly to work on. Connect the speaker. What generally happens while you're doing this, while you're juggling around, this thing wobbles around here, the controller ribbon, and then you get bad controller connections where your buttons don't work when you power it back on. They're a pain for it, they seriously are. But you can see the difficulty here in trying to get this ribbon back in. I absolutely hate this ribbon here. You've got to get it through the little gap on the plastic housing, there we go, and then you've got to pull it in as far as it'll go, and then clip that down. So I think, yeah, I think we're there. I think if we now carefully hold this together, and we'll try and we'll try and see what happens. Let's put a game in. Yeah, we've got sound, we've got nothing on the screen. I can just see some faint lines down there. I'll just see if I can fit that ribbon a little bit further in. Maybe it's not in far enough. Okay, I'm getting nowhere fast with that, just because I think the power connector, we need to deal with that power connector first. So I'm going to take a look at the other board. We'll see if we can get a power connector off that. In theory, you know, I mean, you could just connect up my bench power supply here via some wires. I might just do that in a minute. But I think we'll look at the MOSFET side of things, the power, and we'll look at that power connector. I'll do the power connector first, that'll just make things a little bit easier. So this is the other one. I've checked the screw out of there. Gotta hope this has got the right size screws in it, actually. We pull that out of the way, and we lift that up. Yeah, it's not connected. So you can see, yeah, the cart port was removed from there. This would have had some shielding. You can see when I went in here, I perhaps just cut it off. Yeah, I think it had a big shield that went across the whole thing there. So the interesting thing there is you can see Texas Instruments TMS 4464-10s. So these are the same chips you get in a Commodore 64 typically. So we could always remove those. Those are going to be useful spares. And as I say, I'm going to get some hot air and we'll remove these. And you can see there as well, again, those are the ones that are manufactured by VLSI on that board. So there were different manufacturers for these chips. These ones have just got the Atari part numbers and the marked copyright Atari. They may well have been produced by VLSI, but they were branded initially slightly differently. So yeah, caps again perhaps need replacing on this. But I mean, bear in mind it's not got a cart socket anyway. I'm amazed actually I managed to get that cart socket off without doing any damage there. I could always just put the cart socket back on. So I'm not sure what state the power side is on this one actually, regards to the MOSFET. So it's a similar thing on this board with the power socket. It's been glued again to support it, but it might be better. Let's just see if it fits any better. Yeah, that fits snugly. Just listen. Hear that? It snaps in. I suspect that I added that to support it, but it's actually okay that. But so we'll desolder it and stick that one on the other one for now. So I think whilst we're working on the power connector there, we'll remove, you can see I've just removed the solder from there actually. We'll remove this MOSFET as well. So I'll remove as much solder as I can this way, and then I may just get the hot air onto this actually to free this up. But I'm using this because it's just removing all that extra solder. There's a lot of excess solder floating around on there. Most of that's off now. I don't know if you can see that. That's yeah, looking a lot better. But yeah, hot air is going to be required to remove that, and it will take quite a bit of patience to get that off there, probably. It might be easier than I'm thinking. I just know these boards can absorb a lot of heat, especially when you've got something like that to remove. Anyway, where's the power connector? It's, yeah, it's that little thing there, isn't it? So we'll just again use the desolder station here. Could just use a solder pump, but yeah, this nozzle's a bit too small actually for this, I think. Because I don't think oh, I can. Yeah, I was going to say I don't think I'm going to be able to get on the pin. No, I can't. The pins are a bit wide for the nozzle I've got, but actually that's pretty much free now. Let's just give that pin there another go. Yeah, that's most of it off. So if you free off the hot glue, just dab in some IPA around that, actually, because I suspect that's just going to help us get that off a lot easier. Yeah, it's coming up super easy. See that? There we go. We can always use some hot glue on the other one when we stick it back on, because these things, can you see how feeble that is, how weedy it is? Yeah, it was a bit persistent to get that off, but you can see we've got no damage there. So we'll get the other one on there now. So I'll move the other one in the same way from the other board. The other thing you can do is, if you're struggling to get it off, rather than risking damaging it, is you could just try and heat the pins at the same time as just pulling it slightly. If you try and heat all three at the same time, it should come off easy. Because what I don't want to do is force this one in any way whereby we damage the connector. There we go. Because we know that this one's got a nice good fit. Let's get those bits of glue off it. And we'll fit that to the other board now. Incidentally, this one's got the volume knob missing there. Or is it the brightness? I forget which way around it is now. Yeah, so that must have gone onto the other board, which is why the other one's a bit loose on the other board, I think. I did buy these as a job lot. I think I got about 5 at the time, and I managed to fix all of them apart from these 2. And one of these I think can be fixed, the one with, you know, the main one we're looking at here. Just needs a new screen, I think. So I'll just fit the replace power connector. There we go. Just need to solder those 3 connections. We'll secure it later. It's not absolutely essential, but I do want to do that because these wobble around, as I say. Yeah, it's not quite straight there. Can you see those little plastic notches? They go over the little gaps in the PCB. So, yeah, it may well be a case. There you go. You've got to heat a little bit. I'll have to remove that now because I've joined them all up. You can see now, though, can you see those little notches? They're flush. You need it in exactly the right position there, because those are obviously helping secure it. Yeah, I'm removing the solder there because I just managed to brudge them all. I mean, I could have used some flux there just to help separate them, but we'll be okay, I think. There we go, that's fine. I can clean that up later. I'm thinking an easy way to remove this may well be to heat the pin there, and then just very carefully prise up at one side at a time, actually. I could use the hot air, but you see that iron's not enough. I've not got enough heat. Let me get the soldering station onto it. I just know from prior experience when I've done these before that even if you use hot air, you'll be out forever. The ground plane is massive. So anything you can do to find, you know, get these off here easier is recommended. Let's see if we can add a little bit of solder there. Yeah, there we go. That pin is coming up. I know this MOSFET's faulty. Can you see that? All I've done is leave a one pin. They're quite forgiving because the pads are really thick and they're connected to really thick traces and things. So just getting it off this way is not the end of the world. See if we can just get that a little bit further up. Yeah, so both of those sides are off. So in theory, what we can do now is just heat this side with some solder. And if I use the pliers, and if I use some pliers or tweezers or something, see it? There you go, it's moved, it's gone. I was going to say, when we get up to temperature, we can just pull it off. There we go, let's get rid of the darn thing. We can clean up, and we can clean up any of the mess afterwards. In fact, let's just do that now while we're here. You see what I mean? I mean, look at the area there that was soldered to. It's massive. Perhaps get some desolder braid onto that as well, actually. So, cotton bud and IPA. We can clean the whole board up later, but yeah, you can see that's not too bad. I just need to remove the excess solder there with some braid, as I say, I think, before we commit to putting a replacement on. So I've got some MOSFETs here, and I think these are equivalents. I don't. You can just about read the part number there. SCD12NF06L N-channel MOSFETs. MOSFETs are usually very sensitive to static. So I think, yeah, it's just going to go like that. I just need to just check the pin out and just make sure, obviously I need to trim the legs down. But I'm guessing the centre pin there we might be able to trim off. I just need to just double check that. But in theory it should be just a case of soldering that on. So it's amazing what you can learn from just inspecting some of these boards. Can you see this is the other one, which I suspect went over voltage. Can you see this is the diode here? The solder point there looks like it's fractured. I suspect this has got hot. I mean, it may have failed, that might be why that's come off, but I suspect with heat cycles the solder's broken off from that side, which has then meant this is not in circuit, therefore not correctly regulated. Yeah, I don't know how well you can see that. With a magnifier I can see super well that it looks like it's fractured solder where it joins on this side here. And whilst we're on macro, you can see the board we're dealing with here. Look at these. These two have leaked, these caps. I've inspected the others, they look okay. Ultimately I would recap all of a board like this if I saw something like that. But in this instance I'm just going to we'll remove these and we'll clean up. There's going to be, it's going to have affected some of the things nearby. We might have to reflow one or two of the components there. But we'll do that in a minute once we've sorted the MOSFET out. The rest of the board here is not looking too bad, it just needs a clean. And there's a close-up of where I've just removed that MOSFET. So I had another go with the desolder pump there, but we got a little bit of solder there. I'm not bothered. It'll be nice and clean once we've got the new component on there. There's bits of flux around here and stuff. Yeah, so I've bent the middle pin up and we'll just snip it off. There's no point in leaving that on. So we can just bend it down a little bit. It's not the end of the world. So we can now have got soldering that on. I may as well cut the pins down before we try and solder it on because they're going to be too long. If I compare to the original one, we'll try and get them about the same length, I think. Wants to be about there, I think. Yeah. And we'll do the same thing over the other side. So just flattening the pins down as flat as possible so that when it's on the board, they'll be flush. Yeah, that should do it. Like that. Up a bit. Down a bit. Left a bit, up a bit, round a bit. There we go. So that's one side done. So we'll just... Obviously we can reflow it in a sec. We'll flow this side now. There we go. Bit more on here. That's not so bad. Yeah, big round blobs like that. Yeah, big round blobs like that are not the end of the world. And this is where I'll probably need to use the desoldering station because the amount of heat. Yeah, I can tell straight away that it's melting a bit, but it's getting some resistance. Oh, I might do it with this one, actually, I don't know. This iron might be alright. Yeah, we'll use the desoldering station anyway, just because it's gonna, there you go, it's providing a lot more heat. I can try and press it down a bit at the same time. And we'll try and press it down a bit at the same time. That should do the trick. Strictly speaking, I've perhaps just got a little bit too much solder on those front pins actually. So I've tied it up a little bit there, but yeah, we'll go around with a toothbrush just to get into the little nooks and crannies there. I cut a bit more off that centre pin because I felt it was protruding still a little bit too far there. Yeah, and you could argue, like I say, that the amount of solder I've got on there is too much, but it's not the end of the world. Remember, this is going to get hot. You know, these things get hot generally. So the more solder there, the better generally. Some people say that when you've got more solder like that, you get more chance of a dry joint in future, but I've never seen that from my experience. Yeah, I'm not going to clean up too much around there because we can clean the board as a whole later. While I'm here, I'm going to reflow that diode there, which I think is the Xena. But it's just interesting, if you look at this board here, it's a different type of cap. And there's that transistor, I think. Yeah, the board layout looks almost the same. There are some changes around here actually, it's slightly different. But then on this one we've got this mysterious rear end to it. I don't know, is it even the right way around on the board? Is that not supposed to be flat, flush with the board? It's mysterious, it's seriously mysterious. That makes me think that someone's flipped it around and collector and emitter around the wrong way or something. Now that does say, yeah, that's Q1. I'm tempted actually, yeah, I'm tempted to remove that and stick that on here. I just need to check the pinouts and things just to make sure. Just for now I'm going to leave it there because we do know it was working with the bypass. Yeah, I find it disturbing when I see things like that though. And the solder here has been reflowed on this chip. So someone has been tinkering around with this. Quite why they didn't know to swap the MOSFET is a mystery at this stage. Anyway, we'll remove this bypass wire now because that's now no longer required, I don't think. And then I'm going to remove these two. The bypass mod, let's say, is from the ground of the battery bay, and you put it to one of the connections there on the headphone port. I think it's the ground on the headphone port actually. It's weird how that works, but yeah, it's because the ground is switched. I think that's the component that's switched within the power supply there. Yeah, so that's the wire mod removed. Let's remove these caps next. I'm going to use the desoldering station again, I think. Yeah, it's just those 4 contacts there. So I started to clean up here. You can see I've used the fiberglass pen a little bit and then used this metal tool as well just to scratch some of the corrosion off. I need to do this side next and then go over them with a fiberglass pen again and then just clean up with some IPA and stuff. I'll get a bit of flux here, as I say, and I'll reflow the components there. I might just reflow these connections as well because they're super close. Maybe that cap there, or is it a resistor? It's a resistor. Yeah, and then just inspect around because yeah, that was looking a bit questionable there actually, that side of it. Yeah, the fiberglass pen there is not cutting it at all. What I've had to do here is just use this little tool here. You can see I've cleaned that one up there. It's just going in little circles. What you don't want to do is damage it, and I can't even see what I'm doing here. I'm that far away actually, but it's a case of just going around and scratching off all that black muck off the top. The fiberglass pen, as I say, is not removing it. It would do if I press really hard, but then I'll start removing all the silk screen and yeah, I'll just go around this way and then clean up with the fiberglass pen afterwards lightly. There we go, that's not too bad. So I'm going to get some flux around these components next and reflow all the ones around there. There we go, all cleaned up and reflowed. So I can now solder the caps on. So I think at this stage we'll test it. Those caps are a bit bigger than I would have liked, but I can't find anything smaller. But they will fit inside the case. I've tested that. And obviously I'm going to clean the board up, but I'd like to test it first now to see what state it's in. Is it powering on or not? So I've hit the power button now. You will see it comes on. Now the first thing is, can you see the screen's pretty bright there? I was a bit concerned, and in fact I can't get the contrast down at all, but the screen actually looks okay. Yeah, can you see? This is with the screen that wasn't working before, and it's come up okay. I think those caps were the problem, but look, this is why I swapped that screen out. Can you see? See these pixels here? But actually, that's actually okay, that screen, it will work. I didn't measure the voltages. When I saw the brightness like that, the first thing I did was switch it off and have a measure around to find a 5-volt connection. I'll switch it off, I'll show you. And what I did is I connected up a ground to my multimeter and I tilted the board like this. Just down here, see this? TTL chip, that pin on the left hand side there, and I think even that test point there, that's the VCC, the left hand pin there. And I just measured it's 4.82 volts, so then I thought, okay, that's alright then, okay, the 5 volts is fine. And that was where I then tilted it back up and noticed that I was playing with the volume instead of the contrast, or the brightness rather. Yeah, I was using the pot on the right here, it was over bright like that, I was going, oh my god, I've got an over voltage, and actually I didn't, it was just the brightness. So now we know the state of that screen, and it's working properly with the MOSFET swapped out and the new caps. I think I'll try it on its original screen, and I'll try another screen I've got just to see what the state of those are now. Yeah, I was mistaken. I've only got the original screen and the one that I've just swapped out. So you can see, you know, if you turn it up super bright, you see those lines. If you turn it down, it's a lot more visible, but you can still see lines across it. So yeah, there is a problem with that screen. Well, I'm losing my mind. I do have a third screen, as you can see. Can you see that? That's awful. Yeah, if you turn it up super bright, you can see the image coming through. But, you know, if you turn it down, can you see that? It's like all the liquid crystal inside has gone weird. And you've got like leaks between the segments. I think that's what's happened. Yeah, very interesting. But nevertheless, it's okay for testing. So I'm not going to throw those screens away. But I'll put back in the one that's pretty good. It's just got a few speckles down here, depending on how bright you have it. And that's going to be the same problem we're seeing here, but only to a much lesser degree. It would probably worsen over time, I would assume. Strictly speaking, the other case might be better. I don't know, it's only got a small nick there, actually. It's fairly clean. The front will clean up a little bit. But all the controls were working and stuff. Yeah, there's a few sticky marks and things to come off there. But I think the next thing I'm going to do is just clean up this board here. You know, cotton buds, toothbrush, IPA. You know, get rid of all this flux and just give the board a bit of a good scrub on the top side and the bottom side. So there we go, all cleaned up. That's not too bad. Not too bad at all. So I'll pass on a useful tip actually, and this came from Carrie, actually, one of the Finnish guys over on the Atari Age forum. Can you see these little inductors? L1 there, and there's one here. The way they've designed this board, you can actually isolate individual components. So if you suspected Mickey was pulling your voltage down, let's say you, instead of having 5 volts, you're measuring 3 or 4, obviously something's going to be getting hot. But you can actually isolate it by removing that inductor. And it's the same with you know, Susie, and I think some of the other chips have got those as well. If you look around, you'll find those little inductors all over the place. So I've got the board back in. The next thing to do is get this battery compartment in, and it can only go one way because you've got the spring opposite side from the one that's there, if you see what I mean. You know, that's going to be the opposite end. So all you've got to do is lift the board up a little bit there, try and hook that under, and then pull the board back into its position with the little bay thing there and line it up with the screw hole. And as I said, make sure you get the right size screw there, or you will destroy the control flex ribbon. Yeah, I think I'll go with that one. That one looks good as new actually. So I've got the screws in, and as I say, you can use double-sided tape to stick these back down, but the sticky stuff on these ones is good enough. That's going to hold on there. So we just need to clean it up now. You can see it's got sticky marks and things on it. We've got a spare battery flap here. I think those must have been to hold a screen in on the other one actually. But I can take that off. Yeah, so it's got a battery flap as well. Totally complete. I just need to just clean up the case now. So bear in mind, this was completely junk, along with the other spare scrapboard I had. You can see it's not come up too bad. We've got a little mark there, but yeah, as you can see, most of the marks and things have come off. The sticky tape and stuff under there is gone. So it's totally complete. It's got all the, the battery flap and everything. Everything works now. So let's just plug it in. Yeah, decent power connector as well now. We dealt with those crusty caps. Bear in mind, if you're going to go to the trouble of servicing one of these, repairing one, etc., or even just swapping out the MOSFET, because it's a good idea to swap out the MOSFET for something like the one I showed earlier here, and perhaps replace the Xeno while you're there. Why not recap it while you're at it as well? So yeah, I only did swap a couple of caps there, but if I was going to use this long term, I'd probably swap out a whole load of caps. But as you can see, that's not bad. So now we've got this one working, we'll focus on testing this, I think. So the first thing I need to do here is inspect around. I mean, there are a few caps that look like they need replacing. They're not actually leaked, but the tops, just the plastic has sort of come away, but they might be okay. Yeah, inspect the board. Bear in mind the shielding was cut off this, so there may be some trace damage. I don't think there is. I've had a quick inspection around. So we're missing the potentiometer here, which just comparing to this is the brightness actually. So I'd need to wire something on there in a minute, I think. We should be able to test it without a display initially. To get this to power on, I'm going to need to bridge a couple of pins here. As I say, on the cart itself there are a couple of pins that are shorted together. So I've zoomed in a bit closer there. You can see it's the second one, then skip one, fourth one. So it's the second and the fourth pins are joined together. They are shorted. So when you plug this in, the Lynx knows it's got a game in. So I'll short those pins out here with a wire link. We'll deal with this. Let's say I'll stick a potentiometer on there. I'm not sure. I'll have a look at the specs to see what size that's supposed to be. Now, because the power connector is not great, this is the one that's got the really wobbly power connector. I'll just attach a couple of fly leads. We'll connect it to the bench power supply, and then I'll connect the screen up in an exposed state. We'll remove the control flex thing from this and have that in exposed state, and we'll just see if we can get it to power on, because even without a game, because obviously we can't test a game, what we should see in theory, it should come up saying insert game or Trenig, whatever it is, the reverse. I'll talk about that in a minute. So as I mentioned earlier, in order to get the flex circuit out, you've got to remove these 6 screws. So then this should come out completely, and you can see the flex circuit there. It's quite nice the way these were assembled, but they are very fragile, these. Can you see? I don't know, we've got some worn off there. Can you see that? So we may find some of the directions don't work very well on this. I'm not sure. It's probably okay, but you can see that's all it is. It's these little, and it's very susceptible to being rubbed off this or scratched. But you can just, remove the buttons and just clean the underside with it. And with IPA, they've just got a carbon pad, just like you get on all other of these sort of systems, really. Because we've now disconnected that, it'll be slightly easier to try and get the system to power on, I think, assuming we've not got, damage here. So the way I approach testing these, actually, generally, if they're an unknown state, is to connect a ground wire somewhere. Connect a +5. Now the +5, you need to measure, on one of these TTL chips here, the top left pin, and that leads to this pad here. It's a thicker trace, so that's where the 5 volts usually comes out to the board, if you like. Because what we're doing here is this is a bypass, just to temporarily isolate some of the stuff here. Because I'll show you, if I just measure on continuity, you might just be able to see this top of the shot here. So this diode, we've got a short there. Now while the MOSFET's not shorted, or it seems like it's not shorted, something's shorted somewhere. That might be normal. I don't know, maybe there's an inductor across that or something. I don't quite remember. But in any case, I have vague memories that when I looked at this board previously, there was something like 9 volts going straight across into the logic here. So that may well be the case. That can happen. Now I think this diode here looks alright. It's not shorted. I need to take it off to test it in my meter. Yeah, and I've had to measure around some of these other transistors. Yeah, you see we've got like a low resistance there. It's not quite a full short, but you never know, that might have shorted. That 4069 might be part of the problem. But in any case, if we just apply 5 volts to the logic here and then never measure around, if we see it drop, you know, there's too much current or anything starts getting warm even with 5 volts there, we know we've got a problem. But in theory it should boot like that. We should be able to get it to boot and bypass the regulation side of things. And of course you can always mod these to just have like a 7805 equivalent. A lot of people have been using those recom devices, modifying the switching circuitry and stuff around here, removing various components. See that? So the backlight is illuminated straight away. Let's just turn this over if we can, carefully. Now bear in mind, you don't want to be touching and fiddling with the boards and things while this is on, because you've got high voltage generated for the screen here. You know, the tube that lights there requires a high voltage. I'll try and move all these wires out of the way. Yeah, so you can see we've got a white screen there, not a lot else. Now the interesting thing there is obviously we haven't pressed the power button, but the power button's for the soft power on for the MOSFET, so that's normal actually. But I'm just curious to see whether we can get the insert game message up. In order to do that, let's say we need to short out those 2 pins, so I'll do that next. So I swapped over to the other screen. You can see we're getting nothing, I don't think. It's got that protective cover on it at the moment, but yeah, nothing at all. Zip, zero. But the power light is coming on, and obviously it's lighting the screen there. Bear in mind we've not got a game in, but it should come up saying insert game if it was working correctly. So that would suggest to me either a RAM problem or problem with Mikey. So when you get problems like this, maybe temperature is your friend, I don't know. You know, you could leave it powered, just to make sure that's isolated, and just have a feel around just to see if anything's drawing too much current. We may well find something warming up over a period of time. The one thing I still need to do is add, I might do it next, is a brightness adjustment here, because we might be getting the insert game, but because the brightness is all the way one side, you know, because this is missing, we're not actually seeing anything. That's the final thing here, because actually nothing is getting warm, and the voltage is not dropping. Generally you find when these have failed from an overvoltage, something shorts actually as a result of that, and we're not seeing that. So it might not be game over for this. We could simply have a faulty DRAM. So I mean, one of the things I might do in a few minutes, once I've explored a few other things, is remove these, socket these. Bear in mind, the probably sockets might not fit within inside the case and stuff, but I'm not that bothered. I want to try and just see if I can get this board up and running to see the state of it. Yeah, so I might socket those up and try some alternative RAM. But before I do that, we'll focus on the brightness. Actually, we don't need to do anything else at this stage. I found a fault. One of the things you mentioned earlier, do you remember I mentioned about these little inductors that supply the various ICs here? There's one here for the RAM, and I thought, what's that black mark there? Lo and behold, it's open circuit. I have to measure these. They're short. You know, there's a little chunk blasted off that actually. So it would suggest that whatever this supplies here, it might be Susie, it could be this RAM here, it could even be something down here, but nevertheless that's open circuit. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is just bridge that, and we'll see. We might find the voltage drops, and we might find something around here starts to get super hot. But this is one of the reasons why I'm using a current limit power supply. It'll only provide, I think, half an amp. So we've got the inductor bridge there, power supply's limited to half an amp. We've got ground. Let's just switch it on and just see what happens. Yeah, 5 volts is stable. Okay, so no difference there, nothing immediately getting hot on one of the main chips. We've still got 5 volts, it's not dropping. So let's just flip this back over the other way. I'm curious as to how that inductor's blasted itself yet. It seems like we don't have a short anywhere. That's curious. Still nothing on the screen there. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is just work out what's actually connected to that inductor, actually. I mean, I should do that really before I wire it out. But yeah, we'll just check to see where that actually feeds. Yeah, so just inspecting around, it feeds these actually, the RAMs. But also, can you see here, where's it gone now? I can't see it from this distance. We've got a resistor missing there, I think it is, or it might be a cap, I don't know, I need to check the board markings there. It's hard to tell where it's, I think it's a cap actually, maybe a cap, because that one there's marked resistor. But yeah, there's nothing there, it's like the centre of it's gone. So it's either broken off or been levered off or whatever. But yeah, that's going to be part of the failure. And this here, we had a short. So something has gone wrong with the supply around here, I suspect. Quite why this is blown, I don't know. It could have overvoltaged. One of these is shorted and then it's popped the inductor there. It's strange how now that's back, you know, that's wired up and yet nothing gets warm, actually. That is a little bit odd. But I might just swap these, as I say. I think I'm going to socket these up and we'll try some new RAMs. So seemingly just the same. The next step here is to just have a probe around, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see some activity. You see we've got a ground there, I think that's okay, it's a supply. And then we've got pulsing, 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 pulsing. Supply, or ground I think, yeah. Pulsing, 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 pulsing. Hi, supply. So actually we've got activity. It's going around the address range there. It's going around the data bus. There's no stuck data bits or address bits. And I've probed around and I see activity all around there. So I think the next thing we're going to do is focus on the contrast, you know, the brightness adjustment there, because it may well be it's now coming up saying into game and we're not seeing anything, but we could still have a fault in there. Maybe the CPU, you know, I mean, nothing's getting warm. This is the nice thing with this, and the fact we're seeing the pulse in there suggests to me this might be recoverable. Now there are a couple of the TTL chips on here. I need to check where these are in the schematics, so I might go and look at the schematics now. Yeah, there's a 4040 down here. I think this is some sort of buffer for the input by the looks of things. Oh, it might be for the cart actually. Yeah, it might be for actually reading the cart. And there's a little chip down here. I can't see what that is. I like to see things getting hot, because if we had something getting super hot as a result of that being blown there, that bead, you know, inductor, we would have a clue as to what's gone wrong. But there's nothing lost with sockets in this RAM. It may not be the RAM, but it was something worthwhile. And as I say, I'm just going to use this as a test board. Yeah, so you can't win them all. For the moment, I think I'm going to put this one on hold until I get some more faulty Lynxes, actually. At some point, I'm sure I'll work out exactly what's wrong with it. I suspect it's the Susie, actually. And I'll tell you why. One thing I have done is I've just enabled the soft power. I fixed the MOSFET and stuff, and it was very super careful checking voltages before I powered it up. But as you can see, I can now, now that you can see the LED down here, I can switch it off and switch it on, and the screen comes on, no issues at all. We're only getting 4.85 volts to the logic there, so that's okay. So it does appear that just the MOSFET was the cause there, but that Ferrite bead was a bit of a mystery. You know, it blasted out on one side. The original RAM is not shorting. I've tried a few different types of replacement RAM. I've got replacement RAM in there at the moment. And if I adjust the contrast, you'll see it has no effect whatsoever. So I mean, there could be something wrong in that area, but I've measured around until I'm blue in the face. I can't find anything that's faulty there. So I was suspecting what's actually happening here is that we're either getting a solid output, you know, and what I mean by that is, you know, the whole screen is filled with one colour, or nothing. In fact, I think it's the latter. I think there's nothing. I think it's not displaying any output at all. We're getting the backlight, and then that's it. So Susie is perhaps displaying, you know, outputting nothing to the LCD. That is what I think is happening, because you saw the pulse in there. We're getting pulse in. It's like it's looking for a cart. I might just leave these on for the moment, actually. So in the meantime, I'll order a Ferrite bead. I'll order a resistor for this. We'll revisit this at some other point, I think. So I thought what I'd do is I'd show you a few of the things here. You can see this is just some of my Lynx stuff. I have an awful lot of Lynx stuff. I am a huge Lynx fan. It was one of the first systems I got when I was getting back into retro gaming. You can see I've got some really rare games and stuff here. Lots of homebrew games and things like that. Lots of different flash cards. That's a single ROM one. I've got a few of these Lynx SDs. I helped Saint work on the software for this, the firmware, the menu. These are lovely. You can get them from Retro HQ. There is a waiting list, but if you get your name on the Atari Age forum thread there, I'll post a link down below. You can order one of these. They're fantastic. Micro SD. But all of your Lynx games, Homebrew and everything. There are no games that this won't run apart from Alpine games. This has been dumped, but I think it's 1 megabit. It's two 512k ROMs, and it uses, I think, the ORD-in pin or something. I think there's an extra pin. If you've got any suggestions for improvements and enhancements and stuff to that menu, please let me know. At some point I will work on an update to it. Anyway, the main purpose of this here was to show you, this is one that has had a small mod done to it. It's had the same mod done that we showed earlier. The one where I joined the, I think it was the system power on pin or something to the VCC. So you'll see now, if I press the power button, can you see it says insert game? Let's just adjust the brightness. I don't know how well you can see that. So there's no cart in there. You can see that, and I did the mod to this one. This is just to allow me to dump games in a soft manner. I've got a few different ways of doing it. In another video I'll perhaps show you I've got a hard way of doing it, with I created like a little harness. But the beauty of that is I could stick in a cart now to run some dumping software, and then at some point I can take that cart out, put a game in I want to dump, say this one, and it won't reset the system. The system stays powered on for all the time you're dealing with it, and that's the beauty of doing that mod. But it can help you diagnose problems and faults and things. You don't actually need a game if you've got that pin shorted, as I showed earlier. Something else to point out here, a bit of trivia, you don't hear this mentioned a lot on other people's videos, which I'm surprised at. Anybody who's a true Lynx fan will know this stuff. The text here, insert game, on the early Mark 1s, that text came up backwards. It said Tresny MMAG. Yeah, the text was, the letters were all inverted. And first inspection I thought it was like Russian or something when I was a kid, it's like, what on earth's this? And all it was when they were developing, that's coming from that 512 byte ROM inside, and they got the characters the wrong way around. I think the programmer who was developing that probably assumed that it was going to be output in a certain way on the screen, and they just got the letters around the wrong way. So, as I say, it came out Tresny EMAG, this way, Tresny EMAG. And you'd be like, what on earth's that? If you see one of those Lynxes, you keep it, because they're pretty rare actually, because I've got a Lynx 1 and I don't think mine does that. Mine comes up saying insert game. They fixed it, I think, on some of the later Lynx 1s. And coming back to what I was saying about dumping games, you may wonder, once you swapped the cart over, how would you then dump it? Well, you could dump it with the Comlinks. That was something Alex Thiessen helped me with, actually, because he'd already developed a client to do it, so I was tinkering with that a while back. But yeah, that's super useful. You can just plug your serial cable in there, connect it up to a USB port on your PC via a Max 232 or something similar, and dump via terminal or something like that. I actually wrote a client to help me dump it, so yeah. Again, we'll perhaps have a look at that in a later video. I've done all sorts of bits of homebrew for these things. So this is a fantastic game, actually. It is one of my favourite Lynx games, and there's a story behind it, actually. I'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, it's very faithful to the arcade. It's very, very close to the arcade, despite the limitations of the screen size and the memory and stuff. It's a fantastic port, it really is. I would go as far to say it's the best version of Xenophobe, actually. It's better than any of the other home versions. It's very faithful to the original arcade, fantastic graphics and sound and stuff. And they've added in a boss at the end, an alien queen as well. And it's kind of just about the right length. You play the same, I think, 10 or 11 levels a couple of times over, 3 times over, I think, then you get to the boss. But it's a fantastic game. It's well worth checking out. But one of the main things that draws people in with the Lynx is the quality of and the quantity of arcade ports. So if I just peel that back, you can see here things like Road Blasters, APB, is that Joust or Ramparts, I think, Rampage, Paperboy, Clax. Hard Driving isn't bad, actually. Rygar, that's fantastic. There is a version of Gauntlet, but yeah, it's not great, to be honest. It's okay. Zybots, that's another fantastic port. There are loads of classic arcade games on the Lynx. So coming back to the story behind this, actually, and how I got into the Lynx scene originally, a friend of mine, Andrew, I went to school with him, and we used to go to the cinema and stuff occasionally, and I think we went to see a film, I can't remember what it was now. Police Academy 5, I think it was, actually. And on the way out of the cinema, we played in the arcade for a bit, actually, and I played this game, and it just blew me away, because I was always an Aliens fan. I love the Aliens movies, you know, Sigourney Weaver, Ripley. And this kind of had a little bit of, you can tell it's got an influence there from Aliens. And it's one of these games that, it's like Marmite, you can either love it or hate it. People who love it absolutely adore it, and the people who don't like it just absolutely hate it and go, I can't see what people like about it. But it's it's a fun game where you explore ships, the different levels of ships and moon bases and things, and try and wipe out the aliens to save the base from destruction. But there are things you can interact with. That was the thing I liked about it. There's lots of things to interact with in the scenery there. Controls for disabling the self-destruct, enabling the self-defense system within the base. Like little robots and drones and things that go around shooting things. You can collect items as you go along. You can collect like a little repair tool and stuff, and then you can use that later to fix various things. And there's doors and things to unlock. Lifts to the different floors and things, 3 or 4, I think, 4 or 5 different types of weapons and grenades and things. It's a fun game. I'd certainly recommend checking it out. And there are some good versions, actually. I think the Amstrad version is pretty good. The Amiga version is pretty hot as well, and the ST. I'm quite a fan of the ST version, actually. The ST for me is a close second to this, but you can get it on the C64 and the NES and various other things as well. But anyway, after I played it in the arcade, I then wanted a home version, and I kept, I think I got the Spectrum version, and then I got the C64 version, and I got the Amiga version. I wasn't that impressed. And it was around that time that the Atari Lynx went on, the Lynx 2 came out, I think, and the Lynx 1 was on special offer at WH Smith's. It was something like £100, I think, with one game free or something. And it was around the time when Terminator 2 had just been launched at the cinema. My cousin came over and I had some birthday money. So we went to WH Smith's, I bought myself the Lynx 1, the California Games Pack, and I got the Xenophobe as well in a box at the same time. We went to the cinema to watch Terminator 2, and I was so excited that actually I sort of said, sod Terminator 2, and I opened the box and started playing on the Lynx. I was playing Xenophobe in the cinema. It must have been super annoying to the people behind me, because I wasn't like on the back row. We were fairly near the back, but anybody behind me would have been distracted by me playing Xenophobe pretty much through the entire film. Actually, I didn't watch it. Shows you how geeky I am, and how geeky I was. You can see the different types of cart here as well. This is one of they call this the curved lip. You can see it's like a nice curved, angled lip there, just as you're pulling it out. When these things first shipped, they were flat. So here's an example of what I mean. There you go, you can see it's pretty much flat. There's a little bit of a ridge here. So, on the Lynx 1, it went into the side. I'll show you that in another video. I've got a Lynx 1. So that's why they then went on to bring up the curved lip. But I think before that, they had to go at trying to make it a little bit easier to remove, like that. So, it's interesting to see the different versions of the carts as they evolved. I think there might be another 1 or 2 different variants as well, I'm not sure. I think those are the main ones, flat, little ridge, and then finally they ended up with a curved lip. A lot of the homebrew games are like this, where you've got a PLCC ROM, an EEPROM or an EEPROM soldered on there. Some of them have got dip chips and stuff. I can show you this while I'm here as well. This was from Matthias, I think. I'll post a link down below, and I'll post a link to that video as well if you want to watch it. I did a review of this. But yeah, you can just plug a header into there and program up using USB the games you want. You just drag and drop them basically. You switch it across, drag and drop a file, switch it, drag and drop a file, until you've programmed it up. So you can have 16 256k games or 8 512k games, and then you have to jump 2 positions for each game if you've got 512k, and there's a switch here for 256 512. This was the flash cart that you can probably still order from Bernard Thomas, Lynxman over, is it Lynxman? I forget his name. Over on the Atari Age forum, so that just holds 1 game. It was designed for developers actually. Mine's a kind of like bespoke version. It was subtly different to the other versions out there. I think the bootloader stuff was different or something on this cart, but they're quite nice, certainly for developing. But obviously your easiest solution now is to just get a Lynx SD from Retro HQ. And I'll just show you some of these games here. You can see, you know, Scrapyard Dog, Jimmy Connor's Tennis, Hydra, that's another good arcade port, Dracula, that's not bad, a little adventure game, California Games. That was what a lot of these shipped with as the pack-in title, actually. There were two. There was a Batman Returns as well, I think was a pack-in later, which shipped with the Lynx 2. Blockout, there you go, Batman Returns, pack-in. World Class Foosball, awful game. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, I Sheet Away the Stones, that's pretty good. Pinball Jam, that's not bad. Robo Squash, that's a good game. Blue Lightning, that's kind of like Afterburner, you know, it's got some nice sprite scaling and tilting and rotating and stuff, very impressive, you know, at the time it was. Toki, another fantastic arcade port. There are some really good arcade ports, you know, Robotron, Kung Fu, yeah, awful. Super Squeak, I think that's shipped on the Amiga and stuff as well, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it did, so if you've played it on that, you'll be familiar with it. Awesome Golf, that's a fantastic golf game. Ultimate Chess, Viking Child, Cyberball, Switchblade, again that shipped on the Amiga and various other things. There's a couple more in there, Shadow of the Beast, Steel Talons, Shanghai, that's like a puzzle type thing, I think. I'm not going to go over all these, I'll go over my entire collection in some of the video, but you can see just a few more here. Double Dragon, Pac-Land, again these are just fantastic. Double Dragon's not great, but it's pretty impressive the size of the sprites actually, and you can play it all the way through to the end, so yeah, whilst it's kind of more of a tech demo in my opinion, it is the full game, but there's some limitations. You'll see what I mean if you watch any videos of it. Pac-Land, absolutely brilliant version of it. Again, that I would say is my favourite version of Pac-Land actually. The PC Engine one is as good if not better, but it's a really, really, really good port. Lemmings, it's impressive you can play Lemmings on here. Desert Strike, fantastic. Now this is one of the reproduction ones actually. Telegames started selling these. Can you see? It's not got the Atari symbol on the back, but they still managed to do the curved lips. And this is a recent homebrew, Zaku, fantastic shooter. And again, they've done the same thing. They've managed to replicate the curved lip, but it's obviously not got the Atari logo on there for copyright reasons. Battlezone, fantastic game. There's actually a hidden version of Battlezone within here, I think. If you do a certain key combination at the right place, you unlock the original game from within this. So yeah. And before I move away from the games here, you can see, you know, and there are some other homebrews. This is something someone's 3D printed. You can see, yeah, the quality is, yeah, it leaves a lot to be desired. But I appreciate what he's done with this. The Carrie did this actually, a Finnish guy over the Atari Edge forum. You know, he's done a sweet job in terms of making it functional. He's got a label on there and it's got a lip. But yeah, I mean the 3D printer, yeah, quality could be a bit better. Well, a lot better actually. You can see it's a bit wonky there, but still, it's a prized item in my collection. It says always winter, never Christmas. There's two things on there actually. There was another game that one of the other guys on Atari Edge did, and Carrie was kind enough to merge the two games into here, and you can select which one you want. But anyway, I'll show a load of homebrew stuff in another video because I've got tons and tons and tons of stuff to show you. So just wrapping this video up now, I'll show you the Lynx one in another video, along with maybe my collection or something. That's probably the easiest thing. But the Lynx one's, you know, was larger. I prefer the Lynx one, if I'm honest. But the Lynx 2's got stereo sound, so that's one of the nice features, and it's a bit easier to hold and all the rest of it. The main thing I would say with these is the battery life. You know, these take 6 AA batteries here. They guzzle power for fun. And one thing you will find is if you use modern rechargeables in here that are tiny, tiny, tiny bit smaller, actually, something like, you know, 0.5 millimetre or 1 millimetre shorter than an actual AA alkaline battery. So I found with Lynx 1, if you put nickel metal hydrides in there, brand new ones, more often than not, it won't make a connection. And if you inspect inside with the lid off the back, you can see the battery is like, you know, 0.5 millimetre away from the terminal. And to a degree, with some cheaper batteries, you can have that with the Lynx 2 as well. So just bear that in mind. I've not got that problem with the current batteries I use in these systems, but I have experienced it. And as I say, it seems to happen more in the Lynx 1 than it does the Lynx 2. You can see this thing here on the back here would have been for a strap. Again, I'll show you in another video, but you can get like a sun visor that connects on here, and it's like a flap that comes up like that. So it acts as a screen protector when you're not using it. You can just lift it up and it you know, keeps the sunlight off the screen. But these were one of the first systems to come out with a backlit screen. Another thing is, before I forget, while we're talking about the backlit screen, you can disable it. If you want to just put it on the side while you're going to get a cup of tea or something, you don't want to drain the battery, you can just press that button and the backlight will go off. And in fact, I can just demonstrate it. Watch. Press the backlight button, so the screen's off, but the system stays on. And the other thing with the Lynx, you've got the option to flip the screen. If you hold those two buttons down, can you see that? We flip the screen. So that was if you were left-handed, because you could swap the thing around like that, and you could have the buttons on the left-hand side and the D-pad on the right. So yeah, that was ahead of its time, really, when you think about things. But as I say, I added that same feature there into Alien as well. And the same with the restart. And you can also hold the 2 buttons there down and restart the system. As you can see, that's rebooted it. I thought I'd just show you a few games on this. This is on the screen that's it's got these stuck pixels. Can you see they show up there, but you turn it up a bit, and actually it's okay, it's totally usable. So yeah, as I said, some fantastic arcade ports. 16 colours on the Lynx. And it's kind of got a very pokey-ish sounding sound chip, actually. Gives some very distinct sounds. Sweet. Yeah, as I say, I love this. This is a great version of Pac-Land. Look at it. Look how sweet the graphics are. It was amazing back in the day having one of these, actually, because there was nothing else like it. You had the Game Boy, and funnily enough, actually, I ended up swapping my Lynx for a Game Boy. But years later, I got another Lynx, and then I ended up getting another Lynx, and then I got another Lynx. I ended up with 3, I think. I had 2 Mark IIs and a Mark 1. But then, me being what I'm like, I ended up giving them to a colleague, actually. Many years ago, a guy came in saying, "Oh, I can't fix these Lynxes, my kids use them all the time, the buttons are wearing on them." And I was like, "Well, I'll just clean them up with a bit of IPA." He's like, "No, they've worn through totally, they just don't work." So I said, "Oh, you go, you can have these, I'll never use them again." And I gave him all 3 of my Lynxes with all my games. Yeah, I regret it, but that's me, always trying to help someone out at my own expense. Yeah, as I get older, I guess I'm learning not to do that, not to help people as much as I used to do. And in fact, I'll show you a bit of Zaku as well. You can see the sort of things you get at Homebrew on the Lynx. I mean, you can see those stuck pixels there, but you know what? It's still totally usable. I'm not in any rush to make will mod this just yet. Sweet. Kind of reminds me of Airzonk, this, on the PC Engine. But look at the level of parallax scrolling there. Listen to the sound. It's sweet. Sweet system. And while we're here, why not have a quick look at the Lynx SD as well, actually. And again, I'll post a link down to this below as its own video. You can see one of the updates I did to this, actually, is you can hover over the name of the game just for a second or two, and it shows you a screenshot, and you can customise those, although it's not the easiest process, actually. And we'll load up Alien. I produced Alien for the Atari Lynx here. So I used Susie there for the scaling. So whilst we didn't get that other board working, the one with the suspected my key, at least we got this unit up and running here, and I managed to, you know, sort of build one out of the 2, really. You know, we replaced the power thing there, and it's pretty good, actually. It's got a few stuck pixels on that side, but it's working, and we could always just will mod that, get one of Marco's screens for that. Again, I'll post links down below for that. You can either watch the video about how I swapped out the screen on my Lynx 2, or just go over to Atari Age and order one. But I do hope you found this video interesting. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.